early in the first game against Dignitas, and Dig are a team that generally are very good at picking up kills, if nothing else. And so to navigate that team leads some hope for that CLG lineup, and we'll see if they can make up for, I guess, a slightly inferior champ select.
All right, so they go with the double barrier, of course. Hotshot GG doesn't want to get heavily aggressed on by Pobelter, but we'll see how much he has to say in that case. He got beasted in lane by High in the last game, so he has to recover and have a better showing this one.
Let's see where these guys go with this one. So tank lines spread out, standard level 1 setup for these guys, standard lanes as well, but we've seen people switch after that one. Hotshot, of course, chilling. These guys are going to be probably fighting each other in the mid lane, and they're getting accustomed with staring each other down.
Here's an interesting thing for supports. Afromu has started with the Relic Shield, and Crepo almost never builds gold per 10 items. He is adamant about starting with the Dorn Shield because it should give him the presence and power in the lane. Whether or not they can punish Afromu for starting with his gold per 10 item, even though it's actually going to scale into a tankier overall build from Afromu, we'll have to see. Personally, I am a fan of the Relic Shield. I think, especially on Leona, once you can get those upgrades, the gold generation it adds plus the tankiness it gets to you is just worth it. I think since they're against Thresh and Caitlyn anyway, they're going to get pushed in. I think he's going to be all right and be able to generate that gold.
Yeah, and by and large, the players I've seen, at least in the Western Hemisphere, actually stick with the Relic Shield line and actually upgrade all the way to face the mountain. I've seen Korean players will start with any of the GP10s, but then sell partway through for Ascension. So kind of different emphases for from these teams. Yeah, for the extra speed boost here. But other interesting note is actually as CLG invades in. Ooh, actually this is not good for CLG. Link and Neon forced to run away. Crepo, nice opening there. Good flay. They've actually stopped the early buff take, and Snoopy and Inox going to go back in for their own blue.
Yeah, this is strange. You can see Doublelift and Afromu didn't want to do the same thing. They're kind of just back and forth in the lane, while Link got completely shut down by Crepo and Yellowpete, at least at the start of the game. This is trading jungle power for AD carry power. At the moment, Yellowpete and Crepo are trying to shut down Link and Yen, whereas Doublelift is free farming. If we go by the traditional COG strategies, this is a good trade, and that's just their mindset, why they didn't really help Link that much, and they let him get harassed, whereas there was no harass whatsoever on Snoopy.
Yeah, absolutely. He got a pretty easy route for his own blue buff, and Inox actually going to stay with him here and share experience for a good while. Of course, Teleport Mundo can get back to lane whenever he wants, but level 2 on these guys. And here he goes, finally to the top lane. Nian, maybe misjudged that camp.
The white is very strong at level 1. You should not do it that often. I know Dyrus had a battle with that guy the other day. It almost took him out, and then he had to go back to base, but I think Dyrus started with a Dorn Shield.
I remember Dyrus starting losing fights with Wolves, too, back in, what, Season 2?
Yeah, there's been a few executions. There's no Broken Shard in this game, though.
Unfortunately, EG did knock him out. Thanks in part to the Lizard camp. EG, though, you're seeing the aggressive lane right now be the mid lane here. Of course, the 2v1 down bottom also pushing in, but this is the matchup that EG basically wanted. They let Hotshot get Needly, and Pobelter said, all right, I'll play Kha'Zix into it. So that's I think, a big point for EG here.
I really wonder how slow this game is going to be overall, because CLG and the old CLG EU, which is now Evil Geniuses, traditionally have been some of the slowest playing teams in the world. They generally both lane very strong and want to take things to late game. So now that they can actually play each other, I wonder if one of them is going to try to surprise the other with some aggressive play.
Well, I know one of the last few times these guys fought each other, CLG brought Promote and teleported around the map when they were playing it. It's a while ago, but that was back in Korea. Then it was actually CLG EU. And CLG NA did win that one. I forget if they played at MLG a couple years back as well.
That was the, was that the second OGN season of all time, I believe?
I think so. I know it's really the Frost one, I think. Either way, CLG, NA, and EG going to push through and get respective turrets down. Both blue buffs now for a little bit less turret coverage. So
yeah, these guys just doing the straight-up trade. They're both allowing their AD carries to play safe and farm a lot in the early game. Now the question becomes, does CLG continue pushing the second turret, roam, and does EG decide to take the dragon? Both we're seeing dragon take and roaming.
Wow, so both teams moving sort of southwards on the map, and EG are going to take this dragon pretty much uncontested, but CLG have fully grouped towards the mid lane. Nian spots this. It's going to be a 5v4 if CLG gets there in time. There's actually EG trying to run away from this one. Good gank by CLG. Damage was not there to take Dragon, and now the fight begins. The flash in, Crippo. Oh, you're in a bad spot. Here's a teleport from Mundo, but it's still a 5v4. Double lift just gets jumped on by Inox. Can he survive this one? Trying to survive. I don't think he's going to. Inox picks up one, and the fight is going to continue now. CLG forced to run. Hotshot gets hit. Oh, Pobo picks up a kill. Hotshot's going to go down 4 for 1 to Evil Geniuses.
Well, that is a little bit of early game aggression if we haven't seen it. CLG decided to roam all the way across the map and try and start something at Dragon, but things just went absolutely horribly wrong for them as they give up 4 early kills and a Dragon. That's great for EG. Let's take a look at exactly how this happened. So they all flashed in and committed, except everything got dumped onto Creppo. And I think one of the keys is in the top there, how Inox teleported in basically next to Double Lift. So Double Lift was not able to get involved in the fight. And early game AD carries, contrary to popular belief, are very strong in fights like this. You could see Pete got a red buff early and was also able to help out things. But it was really just Inox finding the perfect positioning on that teleport for the ward.
And so now Inox is basically huge. He's got a 6-minute Giant's belt, plus Doran Shield, plus boots. I don't envy Nian in this matchup. I feel like life's going to be hard for poor Shyvana, but we'll see what pans out.
Well, especially because Nian, like Inox, was trapped in a 1v2 for a while and did not get farm early. He also had to back early on against the white, and the gold percentage discrepancy is just too huge here.
And Nian at half HP getting chased down. This is surely going to be Shyvana falling over. It is. EG making a visit back to the top lane to ensure Inox will win this matchup. And now they get to pressure the turret.
Absolutely. They might just start a bit of a fast push here, knowing they have Caitlyn and maybe some extra wave clear from Poe Belter, depending on how he decides to do his skill order. They can pull off a bit of a fast push here before CLG gets spear ups in Hotshot GG to hold them back. This is a fantastic start for EG.
Speaking of holding him back as well, Hotshot already dumps for an early chain vest, not chain vest, but cloth armor as well. So even if we look at Needly trying to scale up and do more damage, a defensive opening for Hotshot here to survive the lane, because hey, Pobelter got a kill and assist, and a Dragon in the early fight, but the dive here down to the bottom lane, Creppo down low, Aftermoo, dangerous as well, is going to get out of turret range just in time. Yellow Pete, he is going to fall down, nice repel, double lift his aggro. CLG now 3v1 on Creppo, will they stay? No, they're going to
Too many minions.
Yeah.
Double Lift has taken a whole bunch of damage, and that's actually a little dangerous for him.
There are enough minions to keep that one alive, and Nian, oh no, please no. Nian, rearrange those letters, and EG says 9, you're going down.
Well, that lane isn't going well.
No, not in the slightest, but Hotshot's going to show up. He's going to have his turn on the top lane in the 1v2.
Yeah, this is just total domination by EG on one side and a little bit of struggle on the bottom side, but overall, I really think this is going towards Evil Geniuses here. CLG had a very well executed turret dive, but EG had an equally strong turret dive in the top lane, and I feel like the Mundo farm, especially on a lower damage AD carry such as Ezreal, is going to be nearly impossible for CLG to deal with for at least the next 40 minutes.
Ooh, a little bit of a... He tried to dodge the cleaver, but Hotshot's still on the chase. Can he pick up Inox, though? Down to 300 health, but Snoopy's here! Uh-oh, snooping around in the brush, and Hotshot's gonna go down. Snoopy 2-0 and 4. These guys picked up a much better game compared to last time.
Snoopy and Inox playing some tag out right there. He runs into the brush, hits the guy on the side of the ring, he jumps in and finishes off Hotshot GG. That's just a fantastic start so far for Snoopy and Inox. It's a level 6 Olaf. He has had a bit of inconsistent play. We said in the pregame that Inox had to improve here. He played very squishy champions yesterday. He did the AD Lee Sin, where he ended up having to max W because he was falling behind in the lane. He had the Yasuo game, where he had to go Blade of the Ruin King instead of the normal Infinity Edge static Shiv build. But this game, he's on a standard champion, which is something he actually doesn't do that often, but it is absolutely working for him.
Yeah, he's doing an amazing job, and looking around the map at other things going on, Link actually took his own blue buff, Hotshot apparently not needing it, or not able to throw enough javelins anyway, and Link, level 6 only at 9.5 minutes. That's a pretty late mark for a jungler, too.
Yeah, and the worst part for CLG is that Nian is level 4.
Oh dear.
At 9.5 minutes. Now he's 5.
Woo!
Good
Leveled
work.
up.
He almost has his Dragon's Descent, so he's almost able to run away from Mundo more efficiently. But until that time, he's in trouble.
He's got a Doran's Blade, so a little bit more damage coming through for this guy. Actually, no, he started with that one. Negatron Cloak still there. No new items for Nian. Somehow managed to stay up in minions, though. Like, this minion gap decreased since then, but Nian, in the middle of the minion wave, I don't know if this is too good for him. Actually, look at the damage there dealt to Inox. Giant minion wave helping that one. Inox actually forced to hide a little bit there, Ignite, lowering a lot of the regen.
Yeah, I also think the minions were a little bit underestimated by Inox there. Yeah. Pretty smart farming by Nian, knowing that he could stand his ground down 2 levels. He's going to need to do a lot more smart stuff like that if he wants a chance here.
Well, you got to try to outsmart the evil geniuses somehow, and we'll see what CLG can do with this
one.
one.
We talk about who could match wits and who was the smarter team.
Well, I don't know if there's a Warwick here that might be at their wits' end.
Yeah.
Let's see. Nothing.
No Warwick.
Completely.
Yeah,
I said if there was. Okay, fine. CLG grouping up down here.
Freak.
What?
You can't just make up something and be like, and if that
You
happened.
talked about wits, and I just... Forgiven bought a wits' end on Lucian once. I'm just grasping at straws now.
He did. Is there a Lucian in this game?
No.
No.
No, not at all. I'm grasping at nothing. CLG rotating around the map, dragging up in 40 seconds. Snoopy, he's actually making a lot of rotations around this map. He's got kind of low minion kills, but he's certainly been making up for it in champions.
Yeah, and if there's a thing that might save CLG here, as usual, it would be Doublelift's farm. We said at the very start of the game how CLG actually made that choice to not help out their jungler, but instead just let Doublelift go and farm the top lane. And also because of Link's dives in the bottom lane, he has accumulated a bit of a lead. He's going to have to get to a max item build sooner rather than later. His play and Afromu's play is actually what extended that game against Cloud9 and almost brought them back.
Yeah.
They need to play even better in this one if they want to come back.
We'll see if they can do it. Cocoon lands on a yellow Pete, but it's a bit outnumbered. CLG's going to go in now for Snoopy, though. Half HP, pops the ulti. Afro's still chasing him, but he's in the middle of the enemy team. Ult's not going to hit much of anything. Forced to run away. Pobelter picks up the kill, though. Does not have Evolved Wings. Looks like that was Q there, and now Link forced to run. Devil does not Arcane Shift very far away, and Inox is barreling down. That is a kill picked up again by Snoopy. Link on the run. Hotshot nowhere to go either. That's going to be another kill picked up by Pobelter. 10-2, and EG just dominating that fight.
And this is exactly the type of game EG excels in. When they actually are able to get an early lead, they play as a team so well, and they know exactly when to engage, that if they're stronger, the game is just easy for them. They knew the dragon was up. They grouped around it, and they caught CLG in the right spot. You could see they already had a pink ward and were waiting in it. They then used their front line and were able to take a lot of the aggro from CLG. Inox and Crepo took most of the brunt. Things got low, and Pobelter could jump around and start executing things. Then, of course, Crepo was with the team. It's all about communication. The instant he landed that play, the rest of the team was able to fly in behind it. There wasn't much CLG could do about this one since they were already behind, and EG was playing so smart.
Now, well played by EG, and Inox already with a Sunfire cape as well, so that lane's not going to go bad anytime soon either.
Oh, dear.
A lot of things in their favor.
Yeah, especially that Ravenous Hydra that we have on Pobelter already.
Oh, man.
That's going to help them push as a team, too, because one of the keys for Kha'Zix and how we could see his resurgence is because of this Ravenous Hydra. Just as a random aside, the first person to build Ravenous Hydra on Kha'Zix in LCS was actually Chuper.
Yes.
And everyone started making fun of him for it because everyone was doing Tear of the Goddess Manamuna then. And now he's got the last laugh because he's played all over the place.
And here we go. Inox now forced to run in the 1v2, and looks like this time Link gets to laugh back because that's a kill picked up there. Inox falling over. And CLG still actually defending. So for what it's worth, though, you know, in CLG's win over Dig, I actually complimented them for having good strategic play in that kills went back and forth, but they had some really smart pushes and whatnot. And to their credit, CLG have kept turrets equal, of all things. That while EG's picked up a whole bunch of kills, they haven't gotten much other than dragons out of it. And I gotta say, that's at least something for CLG.
Well, I think it was you who actually pointed out that it looked like they were trying to play like CJ Entis Blaze in that game.
Yeah.
They were trying to avoid as many fights as possible and then siege turrets. They didn't have the polish that a team like CJ Blaze would have, but they were really trying to pull it off. In this game, I guess it is a little CJ Blaze-esque because they usually fall behind in lanes. Now, it is usually their AD carry and support that fall behind in lanes, and then they have to work things back. Unfortunately, though, it's normally someone like Flame on Nidalee who's doing much better than Hotshot GG in this one, and the spears can start turning things around. Hotshot's going to have to get a lot more farm if they want that strategy to work again.
And as we mentioned before, he has already taken the detour towards the Seeker's Arm Guard, so a long way to go until Hotshot's Javelins are super relevant in this one. EG already starting the siege again with a split pusher. It's going to be Pobelter heading to the bottom. But the rest of the team saying, look, CLG group towards mid, everyone sit here, and then EG kind of spreads back to the split push.
And EG groups a lot. It's very difficult for them to deal with since CLG doesn't actually have very strong wave clear here, and they're not going to have too much wave clear anytime soon. Doublelift didn't go with a normal static Shiv type 80 carry build. He's going for his old Tear of the Goddess Bloodthirster Ezreal, which takes an extremely long time to get going. If he gets his Iceborne Gauntlet, CLG's plan is to play the kite and poke game. But they just don't have that yet, which is why EG grouping and split pushing right now is great, because CLG just can't push the lanes back fast enough.
And you know, I was wondering when Blue Ezreal is going to come back. When everyone's playing a bunch of I have to walk at you bruisers, who I feel like would be slow to Iceborne Gauntlet, like leave it to CLG, especially against Evil Geniuses, to play a slow enough game that Ezreal can get the items. And then Doublelift can go be a magician and kite everything.
Doublelift is hoping it gets to that.
Well, yeah. He might.
As of now, I mean, 10 kills at 16 minutes is a fast game.
Yeah.
So as far as Evil Geniuses is concerned, both of the times they have met around Dragon have been perfect times to shut down CLG. And this is actually pretty smart scouting by EG. They recognize that CLG lately has been a much more objective focused team. They're trying to rotate better and really make it to the turrets and the dragons, but EG is just better at it. And they rotated to the dragons first. They've caught CLG in a couple of bad spots, and that's where the majority of their kills got given.
Ooh, Yellow Pete, Lantern, he's down 108. Ooh, the barrier keeping him alive, though. I couldn't even say all the words, but Yellow Pete dropped dangerously low. And that was actually, as you mentioned, sort of one of the things that really was good about Evil Geniuses, even back in the day, is that they were a teamwork-based team with good shot calling, good strategic play. And this time around, they actually started getting ahead in their lanes early on, and it's meant so much for them. This is EG looking actually good, finally here in the LCS, with good play calling on top of good lanes.
I absolutely agree on this one. They do have to make sure that they don't give CLG too much time to farm up, though. They have stagnated a little bit in between the dragons. It seems like they know how to pull off that play, but their split pushing hasn't granted them any turrets, and it hasn't given them much damage in that middle lane. The middle turret holds the most strategic power right now for Evil Geniuses to get down, but CLG's defended it quite well, despite not having substantial wave clear.
And even just outside of turrets, EG haven't found like buffs to steal or anything. The last blue buff, I think, at least went to CLG. Yeah, I remember Hotshot wearing it. The red buff being worn by Link right now. It's just the turret game and the dragon game that EG's playing. There's a decent amount of ward coverage in the jungle. Just, I feel like a team that's up 10-3 would have more of the map covered in vision.
Yeah, you would expect that. There's a Sightstone completed by Crepo, but they've already went for 3 sweepers.
Yeah.
It's a fair amount of sweepers. They like to kind of wait and see where CLG is going. One thing to note, when you're playing against CLG and they're behind, they have very specific tendencies that are fairly easy to track. You know Doublelift is going to sit in the lane and try and farm. They're not actually going to do too much roaming, and you most of the time know where they're going to be. So EG doesn't have to worry too much about warding where CLG is, because they should already know.
Doing a good job of that one. EG already on the rush now on this dragon. CLG actually nowhere around for this one. So Evil Genius is going to pick up even more cash money for themselves. 3-0 on dragons now, and a 4,000 gold lead. And to talk about the vision control a little bit more, Crepo has already invested in the Oracle's lens. The upgrade for his red trinket actually granted him 1 extra ward kill a second ago as he swept the mid lane like bottom brush and then walked into another one and swept that with the Oracle's buff.
Smart move there by Crepo. So it's more that they're trying to stop CLG from having wards than they're trying to see them themselves. And Pobelter is at the split push game again. We'll see if he can make more headway on that turret, because it's still in the case where Doublelift is building up his items. He's got his Manamune finished now. Next up is probably his Iceborne Gauntlet, and if he completes that, he'll be able to at least kite Mundo a little bit better. Won't necessarily be able to kite away from Snoopy, because when he has his Ghost and his Ragnarok on, there's no stopping that guy.
Good luck with that one. For 5 seconds, he's immune to your Iceborne Gauntlet, but up until that point, and after it, Doublelift at least has a slightly better chance at this one. Evil Geniuses, they're still looking at that same mid lane, though. We talked about mid lane turret being important, but they're not really making any headway here. And you can just see how confident Doublelift is. He's sitting there face-tanking minions, kind of sees the opposing champion, says, no, I'm pretty sure I can get you here. EG making the chance for the blue buff. They do grab it there. So finally, something else stolen. I believe that went to Snoopy.
No, it was actually Pobelter who was able to secure it, which is exactly what they wanted here. Pobelter wants to be able to spam all of his spells here and maybe create more of a split push edge, but there's a catch!
Stun onto Crep with a dive on into. They have the damage play and box and flash, and he's going to be all right. Double lift in the front line. Snoopy on the chase. Arcane Shift keeping him alive. Caitlyn, he's going to be all right. I believe he burned flash for that one, but he was not going to get hit by an Olaf axe. However, the fight just disengaged, burning summoners.
Yeah, pretty high-level fight we got to see there. Both of these teams have a lot of disengaged potential, especially CLG. You can see what they were thinking with their team composition. Lots of poke. If a few of those Nidalee Spears would have landed, they could have netted themselves a kill. And even though Aphromoo seems like he's an all-in support, that long-range lockdown actually lines things up for the poke to come through. They just need to not fall so far behind in the early game, and this might actually be working.
Jump in on Double Lift down to 1/3 HP just from Pobelter's full combo. Imagine if someone else participated in that fight. Because we saw Link go down a second ago.
Double lift left.
No.
Yeah.
He'd be down a single lift, maybe even no lifts at all. And then CLG would be sad. But of course, we did see a little bit ago, Link is dead. Pobelter soloed him out a little while ago, but this push still going in the mid lane. Nidalee and Ezreal both missing from this, so EG going to get 2 turrets off of this push. And that's the first sign of really good openings now for these guys in a little while.
Yeah, it was just more good grouping by EG, and specifically Pobelter who got some damage down. But let's actually take a look at this one, how quickly Pobelter just obliterated Link before that push happened. It's the scary Kha'Zix time. When he has the last Whisper and there's no armor to speak of on Link, those types of things can happen. It wasn't just that helped him with that push. It was how low he got double lift as well. Kind of a one-man wrecking crew.
Yeah, absolutely incredible play. Pobelter doing a very good job with this lane, and it seems like that plan from Champ Select to say, let's give Kha'Zix a free lane has worked out very nicely. Pobelter still topping his team in kills at this point. He had 6 coming into the day, has 4 more now, so he's done well. We've called him a wild card, saying he's inconsistent sometimes, but right now he's consistently killing the enemy champions. Yeah,
I absolutely agree with this one. Mercury treads 2 to try and avoid getting locked down. If he gets caught by an odd cocoon, he might still be able to stay alive. Hotshot has been coming back a little bit in this game, at least farm-wise, but he's still going with I think he's going to go with the Morellonomicon here to try and slow down Mundo's healing a little bit. That's going to diminish the damage potential of his spears, but I think it's going to be a good choice. Oh, look out.
Double lift. He does get pulled in here. Pops the barrier early on. Has nowhere to really go right now. Leona ulti not going to keep double lift alive. Down he goes.
Yikes.
EG in control of the top jungle now.
See, that's the roaming that Evil Geniuses has. That's why they have 3 sweepers. And that's also them just playing on the weaknesses of Doublelift. They knew that even though Doublelift didn't have strong ward control in his jungle, he would be greedy enough to want to get the red buff by himself without protection. And EG capitalizes. Now they're pushing another turret.
And 10 seconds of 4v4 in the top lane while Pobelter pushes bottom. The dive on his Snoopy gets caught up, but takes a lantern back home. Yellow Pete's going to be safe as well here. Bottom lane second tier turret does go down. That means 6 now for Evil Geniuses. And Doublelift's back alive with an ulti.
Yeah, Doublelift tries to clear away some of these lanes, but you can see CLG is getting suffocated a little bit. I do think quite well in this game. They're finding a couple kills and then immediately after going for an objective. This is the experience kicking in right now for EG and them just knowing how League of Legends works.
Now, they've done a very good job of keeping this one going their way. 50 seconds until Dragon. Ward coverage actually mostly expired in the top jungle. We tend to see teams start looking at least toward Baron, whether to bait a fight or take it like outright as we get closer towards the end of the game when the 6 sort of outer and second tier turrets are dead. And I want to know what EG goes for this one next. Doublelift is still scaling up, but despite his farm not having the best game, Pobelter going to make his life pretty difficult. He gets over the wall. Oh,
really slick escape right there.
Yeah.
Pobelter jumped early because he was predicting Doublelift would shift backwards, but the patience of Doublelift allowed him to save his arcane shift and use it over the wall to safety.
Well played, Doublelift. Not his flashiest play. I feel like the Vayne 1v2s look cooler, but regardless, a very good effect for him.
Yeah.
CLG
it's hard to make flashy plays when you're 1-3 Ezreal.
It can be difficult. You never know. You can press E. It's kind of flashy, but it's not really the same spell.
More of a shift.
Yeah, it's a shifty play.
Stop.
Not nearly as catchy. Pobelter still lurking around. Hotshot, though, on the split push. He hasn't changed a bit since Season 2. Getting that farm going. But unfortunately, a Dr. Moon is going to show up from the side and kind of stop him from doing this. You can see that. Actually, yeah, Link, you're not going to get that one.
It was a nice effort by Link. He had the timer on the Dragon, but obviously EG is keeping very exact timers as well. If they would have been about 10 seconds late on that, then they wouldn't have been able to catch him red-handed, but they did, and it extends the gold lead for EG quite easily.
And EG continuing to extend their gold lead, taking over the jungle. Blue buff taken away. Doublelift 2 seconds late on the ulti. Actually tags both blue buffs. That's kind of cute. I didn't. Okay, good angle on that one. Yeah, for what it's worth. I mean, it was random, but hey. EG still in control though. They've taken the buffs away. They've actually captured enemy champions at the buffs. The Dragon's been theirs, and now it's just the next step for these guys. They're still kind of forced to stop the split push, but Link actually
really aggressive move here.
And the flay backwards, though. The jump in on Crepo. Stun on the Snoopy. He pops ulti for that one. CLG is still alive, and now Mundo plus Needly going to force their way across the map to join this fight. Doublelift still getting slowed. Rand would slow him down as well. Doublelift, can you get away from this one? Has to flash the wall, and barely does. Life stealing on the race to keep him alive, but Nien's got nowhere to go. He's going to fall down. Inox shows up just to last hit the champion. Afro tanks for his AD carry. Good play there.
You could see that CLG wanted to start that fight because Pobelter was not near, but they're just a little bit too weak, and EG was able to play the disengage game very well. They're now going for the Baron, and there's a lot of CLG that is very much alive. It's going to be all about not getting caught out by spears and also preventing Link from jumping in for a miracle steal. If anything lets CLG back in this game, it would be a Baron steal, which is why Link is trying so hard for this one.
Hotshot losing health. Pobelter there to zone out the rest of the champions as well. This is unlikely for Counter Logic Gaming as Evil Geniuses keep taking this Baron down. That's going to be theirs. No miracle steal from CLG. 5-man Baron for Evil Geniuses.
Yeah, a rather chaotic attempt by Evil Geniuses, but they played it quite well. They were able to zone everyone on CLG away from the fight, and they were specifically able to keep the vision out of the Baron area. So any attempt that CLG was making for that steal was completely blind. That's why Doublelift's ultimate was so late in the attempt.
It's still a nice try, I guess, all the same. 2 late ultis here for Doublelift, trying to steal away neutral objectives. Evil Genius is now 13-3 in this game. And really, Inox and Snoopy, I think they kind of started it all. They got a ton of control over Nien's lane. Inox creating a bunch of pressure, and then Pobelter has just been wreaking havoc throughout this game. Just picking off random people.
Still only 4-0-1, but I think the fear of where Pobelter might be has been creating a lot. Just the fact that he wasn't in a fight made CLG kind of lose their minds and go for an unsafe initiation.
Yeah, he was a bit of an unseen threat throughout a lot of this game when he wasn't laning. CLG...
Is unseen threat one of his skill names?
Passive.
That was clever.
Thank you. Pobelter, though, on the bottom lane split push. Happy with just the Last Whisper and Ravenous Hydra going a little bit more tanky. You mentioned the Merc Treads before, but the GA pretty much guaranteeing not much going to go sour for Pobelter in these team fights.
Yeah, absolutely not. And it just makes their front line even tankier. It makes things extremely difficult for CLG to pull off. What CLG wants here is they want Hotshot to be able to poke EG down before a fight happens. There's not any real self-healing on EG, and they could try and stop the siege by landing a few good spears. But Hotshot doesn't have the power, and the initiation is just coming now.
What a hardcore engage by Crepo. He's got turret aggro, though, but he's all right with this one, diving on through with his locket. Burns the shield just now. Doublelift forced to run away, getting slowed down. Inox in the front line. Still no Iceborne Gauntlet yet for the AD carry, so no cutting potential whatsoever. Inhib turret goes down. Stun onto Inox. EG fully in control right now. The Javelin's only getting some of Yellow Pete's health. Not nearly the shots that you would want here from Hotshot.
And Inox was just standing in front of the entire CLG damage line and blocking things so that EG could take that turret as easily as possible. This game has gone quite sour for CLG, and it's, you know, quite an accomplishment for EG right now because they had a really bad first day.
They really did.
0-2, and this could be, if they continue to move on here, the first win that either shard of the old Evil Geniuses organization picks up in season or in the 2014 season.
It's looking likely right here, and honestly, EG hoping it's the first of many. And I gotta say, not only is the team kind of showing a lot better, but the two guys I think who had the hardest time, Inox and Snoopy, both really put up a much better performance this time. The Inox teleport at the beginning of that game to just massacre the Dragon team fight when he teleported behind Doublelift. Huge play there by him, and he's having a much better time at this one. And CLG now missing an inhibitor, and Evil Geniuses, they've recalled to regroup and start their push again.
Yeah, and I'm thinking back to the Cloud9 game actually for CLG and how they actually pulled back in that one pretty well. But we mentioned before the game, what kind of mindset or mentality is CLG going to come into this game with? Whether they're going to be right on top of their game or whether they're going to be a little bit tilted, because the end of that Cloud9 game was so abrupt.
Yeah.
I do feel like they have not quite recovered mentally from that loss to Cloud9. There's so much pressure that goes into playing a team like Cloud9, just titans of the North American LCS, that when they almost beat them, only to lose, or felt like they were almost beating them, then to lose in like 7 more minutes, they just didn't carry any momentum towards this Evil Geniuses game right from the get-go. A 5 or 6 minute Dragon fight just set them back from there, and I don't think they've mentally recovered.
And you've got to figure, this whole CLG lineup at this point, I take that back, Hotshot's back there. I figure, if anyone's going to be an emotional leader for CLG, it's Hotshot, who's been and done and seen it all. He's I feel like if there's any force that keeps them on track, it would be him.
He tries. I mean, Hotshot used to be the most popular streamer. He was kind of the father of League of Legends streaming in a sense.
Yeah.
He's an emotional fellow.
That's
a
true.
lot of the times. I can see
true.
when he starts doing poorly, things not going quite that well for CLG.
Well, and right now, briefcases are making CLG a little bit sad. Got to dodge away from all that poke. It seems like a lot of these doing more damage than Didali's javelins. Hotshot trying to get the damage off Inox, happy just to tank them and regen with his early Warmog Spirit Visage.
Yeah, I feel like on this siege in particular, if Crepo lands another death sentence, there will be almost no hesitation for them to go in. Guardian Angels are up, Mundo's ultimate is up, everyone is kind of just ready to go, no matter what CLG throws back at them. Even Hotshot is low on mana, so the spears to defend are not going to be coming for much longer.
Couple more left in the mana pool there. Shield coming out. Yellow Peak going to start attacking this turret right now. Down to 3-4 hits or so, and the damage still coming across to CLG. Logic Gaming trying to wave clear over and over again. Doublelift using his ultis. Poke still coming through, and this turret is slowly dying.
That Lantern would have been the team fight start because Hotshot was actually going straight back to base, and Link had just visited as well. EG is using the Lantern on top of AD carry siege strategy, where if anyone decides to go for the AD carry, he just clicks the Lantern. It's a very efficient way of getting turret damage down. Additionally, got those 3 Caitlyn traps that are stopping a counterattack.
Okay, and here we go. What else can happen in this fight? The inhibitor turret does go down. EG again on the siege. Inox jumped on. He's going to pop the ulti. And CLG again forced to disengage. Crepo boxes, but no one's going to be touching that one for now. But it's going to be the inhib going down. The jump in from Pobo. They're going to get the damage. There goes one. It's going to be the rest of the fight coming up. Who's going to go down next? CLG is still on the run, trying to get away from this one. It's just going to be the one kill, but Evil Geniuses now in control of Counterlogic Gaming's base. CLG trying to defend now in the 4v5, but one Nexus turret's already gone down.
It's just a massive meat that EG has moving towards CLG, and they just don't have the damage to keep them back. This is a big push.
Though both turrets dead now. Hotshot trying to run barrier heal. Poboth forcing his GA, but that is it. Nien in the front line, but this is not going to be nearly enough. Nien falls down. Only 3 members left for CLG. Make that 2. Make that just Aftermoo trying to do whatever he can, and that's just going to be the game. Evil Geniuses picking up their first win in the North American LCS.
And you can see from Snoopy's reaction how much that meant for them to get this win. They had a very poor start yesterday. We could not say more about that, but this was their most convincing victory in game by far. 16 kills to 3 against really old classic rivals in CLG. Snoopy feels good about that one.
The rest of the team does. They're all smiles, waving, big smiles on these guys' faces, and I guess it is made a little bit sweeter by the fact that they know these guys so well. Counterlogic Gaming, though, you're seeing Hotshot. He's still got one more game to play with these guys, at least, tomorrow. And they got to say, okay, do you want to start the season 1 and 3?
They got to rethink their stuff a little bit.
Yeah, it seems
a lot of cheers coming from Crepo.
Oh, they're well-deserved. His team played incredibly well. Made a lot of good choices and a lot of really good plays. So both these guys actually sitting at the same standings now, 1 and 2. They've got 1 game to play tomorrow. And then you're partway done through the season at that point.
Yeah, I think this is a nice launching point for Evil Geniuses to try and take more out of the season. They were obviously playing against a CLG team that doesn't have their final roster. Hotshot GG is a temporary sub for them. It did work out for CLG yesterday, but EG has to keep that in mind. It feels good as a win, but they were not playing against a full roster.
That's true. They've got to make sure they keep themselves going. The other full roster teams they fought against, they did lose to. E.g., they were actually considered an underdog coming into the promotion tournament and managed to exceed expectations there. And they managed to kind of speed themselves up in time for that match and psych themselves up. They finally had some good scrims the night before. And then coming into the season itself, they actually came in with much higher hopes. People were rating them a lot higher than they were in the promotion tournament, saying they had a really good shot here. And that kind of fell a lot short. It's like a Vulcan sort of thing, where the expectation goes the other way of the actual reality.
Yeah, a couple of things went their way that game very early on. I think even though they gave up a lot of farm to double lift early, Yellow Pete and Crepo held their own against CLG's bottom lane, which is quite a task considering Cloud9's bottom lane struggled previously earlier on today.
True.
And then just the rotations from Evil Geniuses consistently catching out CLG at Dragon Fights gave their what were previously struggling solo laners fantastic starts in the game. And if Pobelter and Inox know how to do one thing, since they're mainly solo queue players, it's play with a lead and snowball ahead in the game.
Yeah.
And they were very strong at doing that against CLG.
Did a wonderful job of bullying out their lanes and doing a lot of good things in the match. And of course, it saddens me a little bit. Also, you talked about Inox and doing a better job. He played one of the more orthodox top laners at a much better result.
I know. He likes to play the unconventional things, but now his team might be fighting against him. It'll be very interesting to see later in the season whether Inox keeps doing unconventional stuff or they kind of force him onto the stuff that everyone else is playing. Because that's where, so far, 100% of their victories have came from.
That's true. We'll see what these guys do. But, of course, we do have more action coming up today. When we come back, Riv and Kobe will sit down with the evil genius Crepo. Then Coast attempts to sail away with a win against Dignitas in our 5th LCS game of the day. Day 2 of our Super Week action continues right after this. CLG forced to run. Hotshot gets hit. Oh, Pobelter picks up a kill. Hotshot's going to go down 4 for 1.
That way, that's just CLG EU, man.
Welcome back, everyone. We are joined by someone who's no stranger to the analyst desk. Crepo, welcome back.
Good to be back.
Good to be back, warming up the seat once again, and good to have the elephant off of or the monkey off your back, I should say, of the elephant in the room here. Getting the losses out, stop the bleeding. How's the mentality of the team now? You guys must be up and up.
Yeah, well, we went 0-2 yesterday. Really bad first performance. A better second game, at least for the viewers, against TSM. And then this game was better again, so hopefully we can continue that trend. We still have like plenty of issues to work on. I'm happy with the way I played this game, but my team played really good, so we won.
All right, so let's start talking about the beginning of this game. You know, champion select. A lot of people are expecting like everyone to just dump bans into Hot Shot, but you guys leave up the Nidalee. Was that sort of a bait to get him to pick Nidalee so Pobelter could have an aggressive Kha'Zix pick, or what was going on with that idea there?
I mean, Hotshot is really new to the mid lane role. Let's face it. Like he should be going toe to toe at the maximum with like an established mid laner, and we rather hit the bot lane from CLG. We saw like any first pick in both series, even with the traditional counter Leona up, and Jinx being picked. And Jinx is such an ugly champion to play against because in late game somebody's gonna die on each side, and Jinx will get the reset and we'll start rolling. So we wanted to get Jinx out and the Annie out, and then we picked the Thresh, which in my opinion has a very favorable laning phase against Leona. And yeah, they swapped. We kind of thinking whether they would swap or not, but we ended up going bottom, and standard 2v1s happened.
Let's talk about a few more picks. Inox has been receiving a little bit of flack for his choice of champions, his choice of builds. What is it? We've heard it's a team decision for these choices.
Yeah, that's a good point. I want to point that out to everybody. Like, why is he playing these squishy champions and not the standard tank meta? Because that's what's been working for us in scrims. Like traditionally, like we were sometimes really far behind in bottom, and then Inox would just play these like soft champions, like not so tanky, but really carry champions, and he would just go to town on the enemy top laner and then spill over that lead in the other areas. And this is a team decision. If we want one champion picked, we pick him together. We're all talking about it, so there's no point on singling out Inox and saying, oh my god, if only he played that tank champion, because it's very detrimental to a new player in the scene, because obviously the more experienced players, me, Snoopy, and Yellow Pete, will be calling more of those pick shots rather than him.
And how is that? Do those guys look up to you, you know, when it came in, the 3 and the 2? Was there any of that separation, or was it just a full 5?
We just really meshed well together.
Cool.
I mean, everybody gets along. They're both very calm players, and they listen very well to advice, and then chime in when they have like a counter advice.
I actually want to talk about that a little bit more because Inox and Snoopy this game seemed like they had some great synergy. What was the communication like? I know you were down in bottom lane, but the top lane and jungle really got rolling very early in this game.
Yeah, based on the way we played our early game, I thought Mundo actually got ahead of Shyvana there because our 2v1 happened a little better. We started duo jungling immediately with the Tyson, and then when Shyvana came to lane, he missed like an entire wave under the tower, was level 1 for a long time. Then the Drake fight happened that we'll go into later, I imagine. And then he was just so far ahead. And then he was going into a massive wave was coming Yen's way. And Snoopy just said like, well, let's just mess that up for him. And then they killed him. And they were like, well, he's going to come back because he needs to come back. Let's kill him again. And meanwhile, bottom, we had Caitlyn Thresh. It's as safe as it gets. So we were fine. I mean, they took our tower after a long time. They even dove us once, but didn't match up against what Snoopy and Tyson were doing up top.
And let's actually bring that Drake fight up right now. Let's talk about it because we're just talking about control, and this completely leads it into it. We'll bring the dragon fight up on your screen. You guys took control of this dragon fight and didn't let go for the rest of the game. What was really the idea behind this before we started?
Yeah, there's a couple of reasons why we were in slightly better position. We were pushing out bottom. We had a little bit better push with Thresh and Caitlyn on the tower. Both our Mundo and our Olaf were basically duo jungling for a while, getting in the necessary levels in case we just tied it up. Both teams take the same tower. But then we had a decision. Either we go for the next tower, or we take the first tower, push it in, and fall back onto Drake. And that's what we do. And we knew we could win that fight if we rolled a creep like here, because we had a teleport going. So we start that Drake. We backed out initially because they came too close, but we decided to turn. I get caught a little bit, but I try to just keep him busy and off my carries. And then Tyson comes in the back. Pretty much solos double lift immediately. And that's like, I just had to watch that fight. He's soloing hot shot and double lift in the back, and that's why we win that fight. We had really good shot calling, turned on targets, killed Yen, kill hot shot right there, and it's pretty much sealed the deal.
Really, at what point in this game were you guys able to shake any kind of momentum, the weight, or not momentum, the weight that was on your shoulders from games past here, or the 0-2?
Pretty much this dragon fight. I mean, the lanes, we had a little bit of a back and forth. I wanted to counter swap to meet them 2v2 on top, and then they were like, yeah, we're not sure, let's just do standard. But we still won out. We went for Drake. We backed out in time, maybe slightly too late. They had a good engage on us, but we had a TP in the back. And once like Mundo can stick to the back line early level 3 and 4, they really can't get away. And then I just died. I still got my flay off, and my team just one by one picked them off.
And this Tyson guy you keep giving credit to is Inox.
Inox, yeah, I'm sorry. Like, we're on a first name basis because we're in a team together.
Very good, showing the synergy. So I want to ask you now, since you do sort of have a history with Double Lift here on the analyst desk, how do the bragging rights sort of go in those bottom lane matchups? Are you going to burn him a little bit after this, or do you let it slide?
I don't know. I mean, like, we won, so that's a point for me. But I tried to Mad Life him twice, which is where you try to predict the Arcane Shift into a hook. And I failed twice, so let's just call it even. I didn't land too many hooks this game, so I don't think I get to brag too much.
All right, so here's kind of a 2-in-1 for you. What was it for you coming into the North American LCS? Obviously, this is your first time playing in the Challenger Series in the LCS over here. And how do you guys expect to stay consistent?
We actually had no idea. I mean, how we were gonna do. As everybody knew, we started off rather like shaky in scrims. Had a really good 3-0 against Determined Gaming. Got into the LCS. 0-2 start. Our counterpart in Europe went 0-4. People were like, yeah, what the hell are these guys actually doing here? But we're improving. Like, we've identified our mistakes. It's really fun playing here as well. We know all the teams, and the crowd is like really vivid. It's like really good atmosphere here. So shout out to the crowd. Definitely keep that up. And yeah, we'll just fix all our issues one by one.
Yeah, because they keep shouting your name.
Yeah.
You're happy with the crowd. Like, yeah, I love this crowd.
I love this crowd. They shout my name. Why not?
All right, Crepo, thanks for joining us back on the analyst desk, and best of luck to EG and the rest of the split.
Thanks.
All right, everyone, we're going to send it over to Freakin' Jat at the caster's desk. Take it away, gentlemen.
Riv, thank you very much, and it is time now for our 5th match of the day, Coast versus Dignitas. And historically, Coast hasn't been doing so well against these guys. 6-2 in Dig's favor throughout Season 3.
Yeah, I mean, Coast has done quite well, I think, in the past year. They looked good yesterday as well, but they kind of fell victim to a series of unfortunate events against Curse. They got the Baron stolen away from them, then they had Shifter die in the mid lane, and then it just snowballed. They lost the game within a couple minutes of that happening.
Yeah, pretty rough then. Of course, Dignitas, we've seen them, and they've had a rough start to the season as well. They got outclassed by TSM in their first game today.
Yeah, that was the fastest loss